Hi viewers, this is me, Prof Mumtaz, Department of English, Government Postgraduate College, Chakwal, and today in this lecture I am going to talk about liberal humanism. What is liberal humanism? Or it's also called theory before theory, or theory before literary theory, critical theory, or theory before that just theory. So if we are to deal with this liberal humanism, we will have to go back into the history of English literature. And there was a time when this West was religious centered. It means that there each and everything was circling around religion. Religion was at center of each and everything. And then with the passage of time, a time came, then this religion was replaced by reason, and man came at the front. It means that now the universe was, or that was man-centered. And when that was man-centered, it means that reason was given very much preference. And with the passage of time, then at next stage a time came when Matthew Arnold was of the view that replace religion with literature. It means that whatever is called religion, that must be replaced with literature, because he was of the view that religion teaches what's good, what's bad, and in the same manner literature also teaches us what is good and what is bad. So we must replace it with literature, and that was also to certain extent very much important. But this the West thought that they do not need chicken-hearted people, so they rejected this proposition of Matthew Arnold, and then they were against this replacement of religion with literature. And then a time came when West have to face World War I and then World War II. The result was all these two wars was that there was havoc done with people of that. It means that their social, political, moral, ethical, religious, and all types of values are disturbed. It means that West was disturbed. West was at that time passing through a very much disturbing time, and due to the havoc caused by World War and World War II, the people were disturbed. They were disturbed in so many ways, because they were not clear about that which political system is the best one, which economic system is the best one, which religious system is the best one, or which ethical system is the best one, or what's good for them, what's bad for them. They were disturbed. Their family system was disturbed, and when they were disturbed, they wanted to give outlet to their feelings, their depressed feelings, their frustrated feelings, and their anxious feelings. And then the result of all this was that then they again moved towards this thing which is called literature. And when then they moved towards literature, it means that this movement was towards studying of literature, and the most important name with reference to this are I.A. Richard and F.R. Lewis. And because the role of these people is that they contextualized the reading of literature, and it means that they were of the view that whereas the social, political, moral, ethical, religious, economic background of a piece of literature, or the background of a writer, that must be ignored. Only words on page must be given preference. And words on page mean that whatever there is written, whatever there is in the text, in the form of a text that is present before us, we must just go through that. We must give meanings to that. We must not keep in mind any background of the writer, of the text, of the age in which that was written. When this all thing was rejected, then it means that the only thing was text form of a piece of literature, and then the result of this all was liberal humanism. Then liberal humanism means that they gave 10 tenets about liberal humanism, and then it is usually thought that human nature is same everywhere. Man thinks in the same manner, and then at this time they were of the view that all the people who are living in this universe, they are born in the same manner, they live in the same manner, they think and behave in the same manner, they are brought in the same manner, they have same social, political, moral, ethical and religious systems. It means that they are not different. People living in one part of the world are not different from the people living in any other part of the world. And the writer, when he writes something, it means that his sensibilities are far more better than a common man. Because he is a sensible man, he writes something. something. So wherever he is living, whoever he is, whatever is his culture, whatever is his religion, or whatever is the language he is using to write a piece of literature, the person who are living in the other parts of the world, when they go through that piece of literature, they don't need any theory, they don't need any critic, they don't need any other person to tell them that what are the meanings of this piece of literature, because this man who is living in any other part of the world, he is also thinking in the same manner the way that person is thinking who is writing that piece of literature. So he can go through, or he can understand the meanings of a piece of literature without the help of any outer source. It means that's why it's called liberal humanism, or it's also called theory before theory. So they, with reference to text is the source of meaning. Whatever is there in the text, form of the text, words on page are source of meaning. So by keeping in mind, they give 10 tenets of liberal humanism. The very first tenet of liberal humanism was that quality, not time bound. This is the very first point. It means, for example, it's said about Shakespeare that he is not of one age but of all ages. It means that quality, not time bound, that any person who writes a drama, a novel, a short story, a poetry, or anything like that, it means that he is not writing just for one culture, for one religion, for one socio-political system, for one society, for one community, for one culture. It means that he is writing for all the people who are living in this world. So his message is for all the people of this world. Then second tenet was that words on page are the source of meaning. It means that authorial intentions are irrelevant. Text is self-sufficient. Words on page, phrases on page, sentences and clauses on page. Form is the source of meaning. This is the second tenet of liberal humanism. And then text is content independent. Content independent means that a text doesn't need any social, political, moral, religious, ethical or economic background or cultural background of the writer or the text. It means the text itself is enough. It doesn't need any, it doesn't demand any background. Then the fourth, this is also very important, that human nature is unchanging. Because human nature is unchanging, it means that a person who is living in any part of the world, when he writes something, some piece of literature, so the other persons who are going to read that piece of literature, and wherever they are living, it doesn't matter, they will understand, because he is talking about the very nature of human being. And these liberal humanists say that people who are living in this universe, wherever they are living, their thinking patterns are same, their behaviors are same, their attitudes are same, their feelings and emotions are same. But the writer is a person who has more sensibilities. So when a person will go through a piece of literature, he will be automatically in the position to understand that piece of literature without the help of any outer source. Then they say that since human nature is timeless, our individual's essence is also timeless. It means that essence does not change. Essence is the same. Essence means that a person who is living in Africa, who is living in England, who is living in America, or who is living in any other part of the world, whatever he is writing, whatever he is thinking, essence is same. A person who is living quite up to towards the opposite pole of that area, he will be in the position to understand that essence, because essence doesn't change. This is liberal humanism. Then they say that the purpose of literature is the enhancement of life and propagation of values. Mentioned or life means that it tells us, it is not a propaganda, it tells us how to live life beautifully, how to understand society, how to understand social values, how to understand our own cultural values, how to understand morality of a society, how to understand ethic of a society, how to understand how to behave with other people, how to understand those people who are different from others in different aspects. So this is also a process which is the purpose of literature according to liberal humanists. Then they say that form and content to be whole. Form and content mean the written form and meanings. One form must come out of context and content must come out of form. This is the seventh point. Then they say that text must be beautiful and beautiful images be used. They must use beautiful images. There must not be anything like artificiality, but beauty must be there. And they say that this is a role of sincerity which is played by the writer. Then, according to liberal humanists, ideas are not to be told but acted upon, embodied in narrative. It means that there must be a silent representative of all the ideologies which are going to be presented. And then the 10th one is that ideas are not to be made by introspection, but rather through experience of the text. It means that if a person wants to understand a piece of literature, he must go through a text, and the experience, whatever he is experiencing through a piece of literature, that must be given importance. So these are the 10 tenets of liberal humanism, that ideas are not to be made by introspection, rather through experience of the text. It means that we just need a thing that is a text. We must go through a text, we must read a text, and when we are going through a text, we are reading a text, then we don't need any retrospection, because text is the source of meaning. So all these are the things which are very important with reference to liberal humanism, because they say that whereas author is concerned, he is a person whose sensibilities are far more better than a common man. When he thinks different types of things in a society, he writes them. He thinks that there is political disturbance, there is religious disturbance, there is ethical disturbance, there is moral disturbance, or there is economic disturbance. He tries to present it, and any person who is living in anywhere in the universe, he is a reader. According to liberal humanists, they can understand it because he is also a man like them, and human nature is always same here, there, and everywhere. And this was a thing which is called theory before theory. And now if we move towards theory, so there are just 5 points which we must understand in order to move towards theory. The very first one is that politics is pervasive. Pervasive means that it is affecting each and everything in this universe. Every person is affected by politics. Every literature is affected by, every religion is affected by politics, and every social system is being, and every culture is also affected by politics. It means that politics is everywhere. Then the second point is that language is constitutive. Constitutive, it means that language is going to tell us the meanings of a text, the meanings of truth, what is reality. Language is going to construct each and everything in this universe is culturally and socially constructed, and that is constructed through language. And third thing is that truth is pervasive, means that it is temporary. There is no absolute truth, there is no valid truth, there is no final truth. It means that when a way of thinking of a person changes, truth changes with the passage of time, truth changes. A man living in this part of the world who is living in Asia, his truth will be quite different from a man who is living in Africa. It means that every person's truth is according to his own way of thinking. What is truth for one person, that cannot be a truth for the other person. Then meaning is contingent, means that it is dependent. Dependent means that there are no final meanings. Meanings are constructed. Meanings are given through using different language and according to the context of the context in which they are used. Then human nature is a myth. It means that it is very difficult to understand human nature. So these are the 5 points: that politics is pervasive, it is affecting everything, language is constitutive, it helps us in constructive meaning, then truth is not final, meanings are contingent, they change, then human nature is myth. These are the things which tell us that now we are moving towards literary theory, and literary theory means that now we are going to understand that what is a text, how to give the meanings to a text, how to remake the meanings of a text. And whereas this theory before theory is concerned, this is called liberal humanism, and in it there was a time then there was religion was center, then man was center of universe, then reason was center of universe, then they tried to replace this religion with literature, but then they again were of the view that this is not needed, this thing is not needed, because chicken-hearted people are going to be produced. Then World War I, World War II, there was disturbance here, there, and everywhere for the West, and then they changed from this thinking pattern toward the other thinking pattern, that they must again move towards literature. And when they moved towards literature, the result was that text of words on page are source of meaning, and the result was liberal humanism. This is all about liberal humanism, and it is called a theory before theory, and actually it is a movement towards theory. It tells us that how we can move towards theory, and after this, when we will study different things, we will come to know that what actually is theory. This is the first step, which is called theory before theory.